Yeah, how's it going? I'm about to plant one of my Pakistani mulberries out here in the yard. You want to come hang out with me while I plant a tree? Now, the first thing I want to say is this is not a tutorial video at all. If you, first of all, if you're new here, what's going on? The name's Gray, just your friendly neighborhood gardener, gardening out of Zone 8B out in North Texas, around the Dallas Metroplex area. I'm a Texas master gardener that's been growing for over 20 years, and I'm trying to build up my food forest out here in Dallas. But with that being said, my videos, my vibes over here on YouTube, I don't do like everybody else. I mean, everybody out in the good old YouTube university has their own kind of swagger, I would guess, for lack of a better term. I could give you a tutorial video, but honestly, I like to connect with you more on a one-on-one basis. We're on the internet and we're talking on a social platform, but I want you to come to my channel and just know it's a chill zone, So sit down, relax, maybe fix your favorite beverage, and I'll talk to you a little bit about Pakistani mulberries. Now, while this is not a tutorial, so to speak, I'm still going to drop a little wisdom, talk a little bit about the tree, talk about how to plant it, but I don't want you to think of this as a lesson. There's cornucopia of fruit tree planting videos out there. You're more than welcome to check out if you just want the facts, right? If you like Dragnet, just the facts, man. But here with me, we're just gonna chill. We're gonna plant some plants together, and I don't know, talk about a little positivity or something like that. So hey, if that's not your cup of tea, no harm, no foul. But if you do want to hang, let's get to going on this Pakistani mulberry. All right, now, so with that being said, I've already got my hole pre-dug. I don't need you to sit there and watch a video of me digging a hole. It was quite the experience. So I got my foot down here in the hole. But one thing I want to explain to you about this hole, this is the soil consistency I'm digging with. Blowing in my face. working in nature, right? But this, look at that. That's rock, that's shale. That's the kind of soil consistency I'm dealing with out here. It's very hard. There's a lot of clay in there as well. So like I said, I didn't want to bore you with watching me use all the tools I have available to dig this hole. Now, I will say this, something I learned from my buddy Jock while we were working on a project together a couple of weeks ago. Using an auger. If you can go out to like your Home Depot and rent an auger, if you have those same type of rocky clay like sand situation in your yard and you're trying to plant some fruit trees, renting an auger will make all the difference. We got to work like a fox, not an ox, right? Right now, in regards to the hole, here's our hole right down here. You can see we got about a good, I'd say that's about a good foot worth of depth. But this is our Pakistani mulberry that we're transplanting. Now, this is way bigger than the hole that I need it to be, but that's on purpose. Like I said, this is not really a tutorial, but some of the principles of whenever you're trying to transplant a fruit tree or fruit bush for that matter, you want to dig your hole 2 times larger than the root ball. So as you can see, we are clearly 2 times bigger than the hole. And you're like, hey, great. That tree's gonna sink all the way down in there. Yeah. It's dug out 2 times bigger for a reason. And now, of course, once I get into the actual planting of the tree, I'm gonna break that down to you why the hole is so deep. But before I do, let's talk about this tree. All right, so this is one of, how many do I have? I think about 8 Pakistani mulberry trees that I have. These are trees that I actually started from cuttings back in February. I ordered these cuttings from a vendor from Etsy back in February. They got to me, boom, in like a week. And I think total I had like maybe 12 or 14 cuttings. Since then, I'm giving, one thing about gardeners, you all can probably empathize or agree with me here. We always like to give things away, right? So I gave some to like my sister-in-law, one of my best friends. I've given away several of them. So I have about 8 left. And now with these 8, I was planning on selling some of them at a recent plant event that just went out in the Dallas area. But unfortunately, due to conflicts and schedule, I couldn't make it to that event. So now I have a surplus of all these mulberries. And I want to get... Now, of course, I'm going to give away some more and probably sell some. Maybe I can do that in this video, right? Set up a giveaway. How we do that? Anybody know? Let me know in the comments. How do you set up a giveaway so that you can give away some plants to folks? We should do that, right? But I digress. But yeah, so based off of that, I got these Pakistani mulberries back in February. They started to show signs of roots in about 2 to 3 weeks or so. And so they're about 8-9 months old or so. So it's currently fall. What's today? I think today is like October 21st. So this is a great time to start planting our fruit trees in the fall season. Because when we're planting our fruit trees in the fall, when it comes to your fruit trees, you can plant them in the spring. I don't want you to think like, oh no, Grace said that I can only plant these out in the fall. So, I have to wait. I can't buy my fruit trees, in the spring. You totally can. But the thing about it is when you're planting in the fall, you allow less stress on the plant, right? So when planting in the fall, the fruit tree itself can actually focus more on root development and establishing itself. So one of the things I like to say is roots, not fruits, right? So this fall, it can really establish itself, get its roots really secured in the soil, start branching out, and then in the spring, boom, she'll be ready to start getting some more new growth. On this specific tree, I'm not expecting any fruit next spring. I would be happy if I did, but that's not likely. Realistically, I'm probably looking at about maybe another year and a half or so before I start seeing some fruit formation. And if you're wondering, well, why are you doing a Pakistani mulberry? Well, I love everbearing mulberries. Everbearing mulberries are sweet and they taste great. And out here in North Texas, they do really well because one, they're a drought tolerant plant. They're pretty much a set it and forget it kind of plant. And then third, they can adapt to soil conditions. And as you can see, I do not have ideal soil conditions out here. So to save myself a little bit of trouble, so that I'm not sitting here trying to change the whole entire soil landscape of my yard, I can go with something that's going to adapt to the conditions. And then the Pakistani mulberry, the reason why I choose it is because take your everbearing mulberry and then double it, or maybe even triple it. You get a much bigger berry, and that bigger berry, it's gonna taste great. And now, of course, everybody has their own reasons why they do their food wars or why they plant fruit trees, right? And for me, it's all about my kids. I plant, plethora of strawberries and blueberries. The more berries and fruits, the better, because they love them. So that's why I'm going with the Pakistani mulberry, because it's gonna produce a gang of fruit. Now, with that being said, something you should consider if you're thinking about growing Pakistani mulberry, or any kind of mulberry for that matter, is that the birds are going to love your house. But, when it comes to it, I'm all right with sharing, So if the birds get a couple, as long as they leave me for some and some for me and the kids and the wife, I'm good. I'm cool with that. All right, but enough chatter, I could talk all day long. I just like talking to you guys. Let's go ahead and start getting this mulberry in the ground. And like I told you before, when it comes to digging out your hole, you want your hole to be 2 sizes bigger than the actual root ball. Reason being is because one, you're giving your plant room to establish and creep out new roots. But 2, I'm gonna also be backfilling it. And what I'm gonna be backfilling my soil with today is gonna be Living Earth Rose Mix. And now the reason being is because this rose mix is going to be a nice mixture of compost, and plus it's going to have the acidity that I want. Now, like I said, Pakistani mulberry is really an adaptable tree. It can adapt to a lot of your native soil conditions, like I said, whether it's rock, whether it's clay and so forth. But it does like a specific pH. It likes to have a slightly acidic soil, almost kind of like the consistency of a strawberry. So we're looking at about, somewhere between like a 5.8 to a 6.3 or so. So I'm going with the rose mix because it already has some of that peat mixed in there. And then, of course, we have a little bit of pine bark in there as well. So that's already at that 6.0, that sweet spot that I want it to be in. Again, we want to work like a fox, not an ox. So since this is already preset for me, I'm going to go with it. And then the reason why I'm using Living Earth, anybody that doesn't know me, or for those of you who do know me, I have been using Living Earth for years. They are a Texas native company, and most of the materials is made right here in my own backyard. So I would prefer using a soil that's going to be native to my environment and native to a lot of the fruit trees and plants that I grow here, as opposed to something that's been sitting in a warehouse for 8-9 months, maybe even a year or so. So that's why I go with Living Earth. And now Living Earth, just to let you know, Living Earth did donate this soil for me to be able to use it out in the garden today. If you're in Texas or if you're in Tennessee, I definitely recommend you check them out. They've been in business for over 40 years. Yep, for 40 years. They actually just made 40-year anniversary this year. So check out Living Earth. It's a brand I stand by. Thus, I'm going to take this tree and I'm going to scale it up a little bit. Now let's take a look at this root ball. There we go, look at that. All right, we got roots down here at the bottom. It's not bound or anything. I previously had this in like a sandy loam mix that I handcrafted myself, but this rose mix is going to give me exactly what I want. And I'm just break it up just a little bit. I don't really break up a lot of root balls. I know a lot of people, they live by like, oh, you need to break those roots up. No, specifically with this tree, I don't like to break it up because there's two plant traits going on here simultaneously. You have a hydrotropic trait, which means the roots are going to follow the water. And then you have gravitropic, which means that the roots are going to naturally want to go down, while the top of the tree, of course, wants to go up against gravity. So with that being said, taking in consideration those two specific plant traits, why do I feel the need to break up roots? The only time that I would really break up roots or cut away roots is if I'm in a situation where like I'm root bound or something like that, and I would cut those away to stimulate new growth. Does that make sense? And I'm gonna just go ahead and get this thing backfilled. Again, using this Living Earth rose mix. This rose mix is good for your fruit trees and for your shrubs and berries. And I'm just moving that around the root ball itself. And then I'm gonna go back with some of that soil that I dug up out of the hole and kind of top dress it with it. Now, I know that there are growers that would prefer adding in some mulch or potentially adding in some compost with this mix. I'm not going to do it with the Pakistani because, look at this consistency here. We already have got, a teeming amount of organic matter. So I don't need to essentially trick the tree to make it think it has all this organic matter in here, because that's not the natural conditions of our soil. So I want it to be able to adapt to its growing environment. Two, I don't want to add too much compost in this mix because, again, Pakistani Mulberry is drought tolerant. So it actually doesn't like to have a whole bunch of water on it. It's really, it can be susceptible. And I did lose a couple when I was creating the cuttings. They can be susceptible to root rot. So I'm not going to create that environment. I'm just put a little bit around the root ball, and then from there, once those roots starts to travel out, they go ahead and do their thing. They find their path of least resistance. And now, while I'm backfilling with our topsoil here, look at that grub. Go on, grub. Get up out of here. Well, them doggone armadillos and raccoons that's been digging up my backyard garden. Where y'all at? Come get these guys. Get up out of there. But anyway, while I get this grub out of here, all right, and while I rake back in and backfill my top layer soil. What have you guys been up to? And I bet you're wondering, like, what kind of YouTube video is this? Is this a back and forth conversation? It can be, if you wanted to. I like engaging with you guys. I like chatting with you guys. You know, I try to respond to you when I can within about 24, 48 hours. And that's why I tell a lot of folks that, you know, as a gardener, I'm not here for the clicks and the views. Don't get it twisted. If I had 1 million followers, it would be awesome. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to help. So if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you have some questions about your soil, questions about plants, or just questions for me, feel free to ask. I'm here to help. I'm not unapproachable. But now I will say this. When videos get overwhelming, I will try to go to and at least like all of the comments. But sometimes, you know, if we're talking like 300-400, a couple thousand comments, it gets a little overwhelming and I can't answer all of you. But most of you who already subscribe to me and follow me on the other platforms know that I try my best to actually get back to all you guys. But now I'll tell you this. If you ask me a question and for whatever reason I can't get to you, email me. Email me. A lot of you already know. Email me over at Urban Gardening. What is the name of my channel? urbangardeningwithgray@gmail.com. I'll get back to you. Actually, I had just recently a lot of folks come in and ask me questions about fall planting. So if you have questions, I will help you with the answers. And when it comes to the answers, I mean, I do a lot of research based through like the ag extensions and so forth. I'm not going to give you any hype. I'm not going to tell you anything that is untrue. Everything is science backed. All right, I got everything planted out like I want. Now I'm about to go through and give it a nice drink. But I want to give you a bit of advice and then explain why I'm out here in the middle of my yard when it comes to when it comes to planting this Pakistani Mulberry. First bit of advice. Even no matter what type of fruit tree you're growing or tree that you're planting, whatever it is, one thing I want to make sure that you don't do is don't do the mulch volcano right around the bark. I've seen a lot of people do this where they mound up all of the mulch, creating like a volcano right around the trunk of the tree, and you definitely don't want to do this. Reason being is because you're focusing all that moisture, all of that water to one centralized location, and that will completely just, again, going back to what I said before, create that situation where you're breeding the right environment for root rot. If you are going to add mulch down to where your tree is, you know, level it out. You can go, you know, as big as you want the canopy to go, but level it out. So yes, you can retain some moisture, but you don't want to create a mulch volcano because you're just setting your tree up for failure. When it comes to watering your tree, you don't want to be watering right by the trunk anyway. What you want to do is actually kind of follow the canopy of the tree itself, because that's going to indicate where the roots are going to be. Because of course we know that you have vertical growth going up, right? And for all of that vertical growth and that canopy that's creating out and branching out with that tree, you are also getting that same exact formation underneath with your soil, because 50% of any tree growth is going to happen below the soil line. But let's get back to our mulberry. Oh yeah, and one more additional thing. I said that I was going to explain to you why I have this mulberry out in the center of my yard, right? Well, there is logic behind that. All right, so mulberry trees, and it doesn't matter which type of mulberry tree we're talking about. They have very, very borderline invasive roots. They will tear up infrastructure. They will tear up foundations. So I wanted to make sure that my Pakistani mulberry is out center mass of where my yard is. That way, I don't have to worry about it, you know, destroying the foundation of my home or my driveway or anything of that matter. Plus, it's out in the center of the yard to create a shade situation. Because I'm a firm believer that your yard should be a place of function. It should be a place of play, and then also a place that of peace. Does that make sense? So I want it out in the center of the yard so my kids can run around and play on it. Hey, when it gets taller, they can climb on it if they want to. Or if me and the missus wants to sit up underneath the tree with our chairs and sit out and have drinks and just enjoy the evening, I want to be able to have that functionality while still having a tree that's actually producing more than just shade, but is also producing fruit as well. And now, you know, that's when we start to kind of get into that logic of like permaculture, right? Where we're not, well, it's not that we're not. What we're doing is we're creating an environment where we're feeding the soil, where we're feeding nature, but then we're also feeding ourselves, right? So that's kind of my logic behind all the fruit trees and berries and such that I plant out here. I try to grow things that's, one, gonna do well in my zone, two, that I'm not gonna have to work that hard. Like for instance, apples, right? I would love to grow some apples out here in North Texas, zone 8B, but there are a lot of apples that require a lot of chill hours. If you're not familiar with that vernacular, that means it needs to have so many hours of it being cold, so that you can get some vernalization going on, so that the trees can actually be able to produce fruit. If they don't get those achieved vernalization hours or those chill hours, they won't actually have a good offspring. So with that being said, there are not a lot of apple options that I have here. I mean, there's a few, not apples that I care for, but there are a few options, but it's a little bit challenging. So that's why I go with things that I know will do well here. So I do my research. I grow things that I and my family like to eat. And then I grow things that's going to be lower maintenance. That's just my logic, you know. Just because I don't want to work too hard. I love gardening, but hey, I don't want to be out here struggling every day either. All right, gang. That's been my video on Pakistani Mulberry fall tree planting. Like I said, you know, this is not really a tutorial. If you want me to do something that's more tutorial based, you know, give me notes in the comments. You know, let me know, like, hey, Greg, can you show me how to grow X, Y, and Z? You know, I try to be a little bit different on these internet spaces, you know, because gardening, there are a lot of us out there, you know, gardening educators, influencers, whatever term you want to call it. But I prefer kind of being that chill guy that, you know, you just hang out with, makes you smile. That's just my take on things. But hey, it's been amazing speaking with you, as always. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Oh, wait. See, I always forget this part. I'm supposed to ask you to subscribe, turn the bell notification on, and all that stuff. I always forget to do that because I just enjoy, you know, being here, chilling with you, hanging out with you. But yeah, if you want to, if you feel, you know, that I deserve it, you know, if you like the vibe, if I pass the vibe check, yeah, please subscribe and check out the rest of my content. I got a little something here for everybody. But all right, for real this time. It's been amazing talking to you. Talk to you again real soon.